Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Khalil Doheny. I'm the Senior Content Marketing Manager at Digital Niche Agency. Today, I have David Colleen and Barney Stacher. Both of you gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Excellent, Khalil. Thanks for having us today. Excited to talk with everyone.
Yeah.
What are you up to, Barney?
I as well. It's a virtually beautiful day in New York City, as you can
Are you
see.
sitting on top of a tower right now?
No, close to it. That is the current tower downtown, and it is a real view out of a real place that I am occasionally at.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Khalil, what's the lay of the land for folks today?
Yeah. So today, it's going to be an incredible webinar. It's going to be a fireside chat between Barney and David. Barney has some questions you'd like to ask David, and David has a quick presentation he'd like to go through today. So, David, if you wanted to start with that presentation, we can go ahead and get going with that.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me do a share screen here just 1 second.
Before we dive in, Barney, do you want to give a little bit of background of yourself to the audience?
Certainly. I consider myself suffering from adult ADD, and my variety of background is that as a business development expert in retail branded goods, consumer products, with a little flavor of hospitality industry and food products, as a matter of fact. And I like to stay current with the technology for marketing and advertising, AI in particular, machine learning, virtual world, and other things going on, but that happen in the real world. We're not talking about the metaverse here.
Awesome. And David, I'm sure everyone here knows who you are, but if you want to go and give a little bit of insight of yourself, that'd be great.
Sure. I run the business side of SapientX. I have two co-founders in the company, Bruce Wilcox, an AI scientist, and Macklin Marvitt, an engineer who's used to building large engineering teams for companies like Jeff Bezos's rocket company. So it was really cool to have founders that had done big things before joining us. And now we're trying to do big things with voice and AI systems. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to take a close look at our investment deck, I wanted to spend a few moments over there to just give you a little bit of context for what it is that we're doing. Let me, let's see here. There we go. I think, is everybody seeing the screen okay?
Yep.
All right. So, by the way, for fun, Bruce likes to compete in the Loebner Awards for the best conversational system. It's a test administering the Turing test to try to fool judges into thinking that they're talking to real people. So he's won the competition 4 times now. I already told you a little bit about Bruce and Macklin, my co-founders of the company, and we have a wonderful team. I counted up our core team is 21 people now, so we're expanding. But because we speak so many different languages, we actually have a larger team that does translation and voice systems with us. You can see some of our other core people. And I won't spend too much time on this because this is all up on the Start Engine website. But we have great people like, we just had Junichi Fujita join us this year. He was the former CTO at Sony for the PlayStation. So we really have top-notch people that are one by one joining our team, and they agree with the wonderful vision that we have for bringing conversational voice interfaces to a wide range of products. When we got started doing this, Bruce and I sat down with some of our friends who make cars and robots and consumer products, and tried to understand what were the barriers for them in adding voice systems to products. one of the key things is you're all familiar with Siri and Alexa, I assume, but what you may not realize is they only understand about 3 out of 4 things that you say to them. Their technologies they're using older approaches that are based on keywords, and they don't really work very well for conversation. Uh, Contrast that to our system that Bruce developed, which was built from the ground up to understand conversation, and we're able to get up to 99% accuracy. Imagine you're driving your car and you ask your voice assistant for something. You can't have that assistant make a mistake 1 in 4 times. You pretty much need to have that happen reliably every single time, and that's something that we can deliver. Also, a really important and growing topic is data security. We've always protected user data, unlike all the big players, which really exist only to capture user data and then to sell it to third parties. So that's an important thing to most of our customers. And new laws are being passed every day to protect user data. We're already on the good side of the fence, unlike other folks in the space. To run a Siri and Alexa is not a small task. They've got to run those on supercomputers. Our system is written so efficiently that we can run on something as simple as a Raspberry Pi or a wristwatch. That allows us to put our product, our conversational AI, into places that the other guys can't go. That's important to customers that make refrigerators and washing machines and all sorts of different kinds of technology products that would benefit from having a voice interface. You may find it surprising to learn that the big boys don't speak all that many languages. We speak 40. That allows us to address a huge worldwide base of consumers. And finally, we are all about our customers' brand. We're here to create a brand ambassador for them to communicate to their customers, not vice versa. And we're one of the few companies to do that. So I'm going to pick up the speed here a little bit so that we can have time to talk with Barney. But just understand that our software is complete. It's ready to go. It's tested and it's tough. And it runs on just about everything. By the way, this deck is all online for you. So we do something unique. We're able to run on low-powered systems at high accuracy. I'm just blitzing through here because we have more important things to talk about in this conversation. But just understand that we outcompete the people that we compete with. Now, some of our earliest customers were in the automotive space, and we've built prototypes with a number of big companies, mostly Fortune 500 companies, and we're working to get our voice assistants in cars. But we also found that there were a lot of other marketplaces that could benefit from our assistants. So 5 years ago, we began building a system for high resolution characters on big screens by bringing Alex Hessler out of Pixar. He began our program there. He literally worked on the Avatar movie, so it's funny that we're so busy making high resolution avatars now. And we also have done some important work in smart home devices, including smart mirrors for NEC, TV systems for Samsung, and even working with 3 different robot companies. Our health systems are showing a lot of promise. It's early market, but because we are able to measure the emotional state of a user, we can do things like monitor seniors, and if they are having cognitive problems, we can report them to a health team. So I see a big future in this, but it is still early market in health. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the revenue models. We license our work. The market's growing rapidly. A growth rate of almost 44% is very high, and we're predicting great things for what our team is doing with this technology and how we're selling it. Our funding, currently we're in a $4.2 million raise. Today we're at about $1.5 million, and we're still going on it. This is working capital for us to carry us to our profitability. We did have some setbacks because of COVID and chip shortages, but the wheels are still in the car, and we're working hard on sales this year. So we're planning to use the money that we raise to help our product make it to market and to get our first strong revenues back from our customers. And we've been hitting our milestones, and we are on track. So I'm just going to wind up by talking a tiny bit about exits. Folks that invest in startups need to know that their payday comes when the company is sold, or IPOs, or the like. We track 35 peer companies. 27 of them have been acquired, and when they got acquired for a lot of money. So typically their exit multiples were 14x. That means if you invested $1 in it, you got $14 back on average with these companies. Now, we can't say for certain that that's our future, but we do want to take SapientX to the highest orbit. And given what's happened in the past, that may be an indication of what will happen in the future. We're definitely open to it, but in the meantime, we're focused on making a great company and a great product. So let me wind up with the deck and turn things over to Barney so he can talk a little bit about retail and the reason why we're all here in the call today.
Well, thank you, David. That's great. I really appreciate the presentation. And what really brought me here is the opportunity that I see in our lives and business for this enhanced level of engagement and problem solution orientation for what this offers in display, in digital display. My life is all about, my business is all about envisioning the opportunities and how they connect. And when I think about retail and consumer products and hospitality in terms of current experiences that people have, whether they are at an info desk or a concierge, or as David said, on home devices, there's this issue of, and we're all experiencing it with trust of the information, as David said, whether it's Siri or Alexa. And I think, my view is that we're all headed in this direction where we are working with AI chatbots to help solve our problems and advance ourselves. So I'd like you to speak to specific solutions as it relates to environments in hospitality retail, where somebody comes into a Walmart, for instance, and engages with a greeter or a customer service agent in a retail experience, and how that is different and enhanced by a SapientX experience.
Well, I think it's a really important area that we're beginning to work in, Barney. I should say that when the automotive market turned down about 2 years ago because of the chip shortage, we were asking ourselves, what markets are going to be bellwethers throughout perhaps an extended period of COVID and the chip shortage. And we realized that the work that Alex had begun 5 years ago to put characters like Xander on large screens. By the way, you can see he's on an 85-inch flat screen. So he's life-size when you walk up and talk to him. There was a whole possible market to use large characters like that, and understand that all of our work prior to that was on fairly small screens, your mobile phone, your wristwatch, that 10-inch screen in your car. So this was a new departure for us, a new product area for us, and it was a lot of hard work getting there, but we began to show it to customers last summer. The very first prototype, by the way, we did was for Lowe's, for a greeter. Now, I remember going to a Home Depot and asking for a come along, and I went through 6 of their sales associates who none of them knew what a come along was. Finally, they found the old guy in the back who knew what a come along was. He says, "Oh yeah, it's aisle 17. It's about halfway down. I think they're on sale this week." So uh, the early prototype we had done for a Lowe's greeter uh, did just that, and you didn't have to ask 6 salespeople before you got the person most knowledgeable, because our system knows and our assistants can talk about every single product in the store and tell you where it is or what's on sale or where the bathroom is. There's a lot of things that we can do that maybe we can do a little bit better than a human. Uh, we've had some other interesting prototypes. We were just talking with a fast food company that wanted to have you greeted as you drove up in the drive-through by a talking character. Now, every once in a while, I break down and go to Burger King. I admit I'm guilty. I'll tell you, every time I go to the window, I ask for a hamburger with no onions. And I know reliably half the time they're going to screw it up and I'm going to have a mess of onions on there. And I'm sure most of you love those onions, but not me. Now, we can do that very accurately and we can do it every single time. In fact, the fast food company was interested in us making a back of house system, which means it would live in a headset and would help with everything from how to make the food to coach them on productivity to being able to manage inventory all through an assistant that would be in the headset. So there's a lot of different ways for us to interact with people. We've also done proposals for assistance for train stations, for airports. There's a lot of places that we can go to either give a brand experience, to sell something, market something, or to inform people. So that's super important for us. And I think it's a big part of our future.
Well, I'd like to share something because, again, my experience is retail, consumer products, hospitality, that consumer engagement level. And I've worked with so the idea, 2 things to touch on is that health-related HIPAA localized thing, because I have experience from a face recognition company that was doing it in loyalty, and then also the idea, I just want to share this because this is how I've come across how I see display advertising in a retail session, where a segment where you're able to engage and perhaps even talk about your own size characteristics at some point in the technology. And that issue of HIPAA and trust, I also want to speak to issues of trust on the AI voice, because I just coincidentally today, I was reading in a Market Research and Insight magazine about how the British accent engenders the greatest trust, and that nuance that I think this technology offers. So
it's an interesting topic, but it plays into some key research that I'd like to share with you. First of all, we're an AI company. That's the core of what we do. Sometimes people ask us if we're an avatar company because very often our customers use avatars along with our voice system. Our AI controls the voice. Our AI also controls how the characters move and interact with people. The avatars themselves, we use off-the-shelf avatars from major different locations that 3D artists. We're avatar agnostic, yeah. So our goal is to make it easy for the creative people to take whatever avatar they want and to easily wire it to our voice system and to deliver a product for their customers. So that's what it's all about. Now, part of the reason for using an avatar is that there's some really seminal research that was done that showed that a good avatar with a good voice got up to 25% higher user satisfaction and trust scores. In fact, in medical settings, it was even found that people would tell our avatars things that they wouldn't tell their family doctor. So that was a real shock to the researchers, and they wanted to find out why. And it was because humans judge and our avatars don't judge at all. So I know
Well,
when I walk in to my doctor's office, I know he's going to say, David, you put on weight. And he'll give me this kind of nod and I'll feel a little guilty. Our avatars don't make anybody feel guilty.
right. As I can put it into real terms, my wife might say, watch your tone. So that's, to me, that's, some of the most interesting thing is that engenders that quality of the AI, that accuracy over multitudes greater than a Siri or an Alexa, offers an increased level of confidence and trust, credibility in what's coming across because of its accuracy, and because of your ability to nuance the avatar in a level that's not able to be done elsewise. It does facilitate a level of trust.
It does, but the trust also goes in an important other direction. We've done proposals for companies like Disney, doing vending machines for their cruise ships and theme parks. Now, Disney has a lot of wonderful characters, everything from Mickey Mouse to Spider-Man. And I'll tell you, they're very, very picky about how those characters get used. So it was important for us to create not just a good conversational system with avatars, but something that could support the very best work in the world to make good brand representatives. Now, we could have a generic person sell something at Lowe's or Walmart. We could also have a famous actor or personality serve that role. So that's pretty exciting. Let me pause out for just a second. Some of you are starting to ask questions, and that's cool. We're going to answer them all at the end. So give me lots of good questions, and we'll tackle them right at the end.
Right. No, and you're absolutely right. So I come from consumer products, so branding, and I've worked with Disney, so I've seen the 50-page contract and how tight they can be on what is represented. And to me, that's, not everything, but there's so much opportunity in licensing, in existing characters that have gravitas for a number of retail brands and associations and partnerships, and again, because you're avatar agnostic, brings up, again, so many opportunities to engage the consumer on such an amazing level.
We love these high resolution characters, but we're also going out to some different platforms that would be of interest to retailers. Last year, we announced our support for augmented reality glasses made by Unreal. They're selling them at Verizon stores, and it's a really wonderful high resolution augmented reality glasses set. But as cool as it is, it does have a wire that goes to your Android phone. Next month, Apple plans to share their plans for the metaverse, which will include a lot of new technologies that will run in their new goggles, their glasses when they eventually ship, their tablets, their iPhones. We're able to run our characters in that system today. So they're already ready to go into applications that would be not just on a big screen, but on all sorts of smaller screens and glasses that would give a retail experience. So imagine you're walking through Walmart, rather than saying hi to Xander at the front door, Xander's present as a little character inside of your glasses that's saying, no, turn left, that come along is down aisle 17. I already told you that.
Right.
And by the way, you might want to check out the nails. They're on sale on aisle 14. So there's a lot of different ways to engage with people, including carrying a retail experience with them when they go home.
Yeah, again, the opportunities, whether it's, I think about sporting events or any environment or something on that Oculus, as you said, where you can engage in seeking more information and an experience with that brand or that retailer and facilitating an easier transaction. And I see, getting back to auto, just to ask, can you, it's like being able to do a test drive. We also necessarily, maybe our favorite people aren't automobile salesmen, but I also think about this as a way to learn about the automobile, as it were, in the showroom through display advertising and conversation. So it's again another salesperson where there's a level of trust and lack of judgment.
Well, so I think you're dead right on that, Barney. We did a prototype for NIO, the electric car company from China, for an assistant that was on a large screen like this for their showrooms. But I think part of what's cool about that, that assistant can answer questions for people when the salespeople are busy, or tell them about products that they wouldn't necessarily know of. In Japan, we're actually talking with car makers who have insurance companies that sell car insurance right there in the showroom. So it's a little different in Japan. But we're able to take the same characters and put them on their website, put them on their mobile apps. So you can have a brand experience selling you or marketing you things in a lot of different form factors. So you're taking your one brand ambassador and spreading them all around, really resonating the message. And I think that's very exciting to anybody who does retail sales, whether it's cars or big box products.
Yeah, and 24/7, as you said, it also avoids some of the transactional problems. When I can see in, as you said, going to the Burger King, which you only do on a 6-month basis.
There was an interesting feature that came out of conversations with one of our partners who makes vending machines. Apparently, vending machines have an important role in market analysis. So long ago, we did a proposal for PepsiCo for Mixie the mixologist, and Mixie was a character that would talk to you and let you describe a custom blend of flavors for your custom drink. And they explained that part of the importance of Mixie was that she was measuring flavor trends in the marketplace. Well, in a vending machine, it's not just selling you something, but it's also analyzing how you interact with the product and what your product preferences are. So since our system already does sentiment analysis, like in your car, we detect whether you're angry or sleepy or maybe you've been drinking too much. But we can measure all different levels of emotion that might be interesting for a marketing person trying to gauge market receptivity for their product.
Yeah, that's very true. I meant to bring up a picture, but I can't find it, of the Hartsfield Atlanta International Airport and the vending that's now available there, and the type of interaction that's available on the screen that could potentially be enhanced by this, not potentially, that would be enhanced by this type of engagement and AI that is both collecting information at the same time that it's really presenting a unique experience to the consumer for the brand.
I think it's a real exciting area to go into. And I think we're just scratching the surface. One of the things that our team is working on right now is putting talking characters into ads that would be in web pages or emails. There's just so many ways to provide entertaining sales experiences for people.
Chatbots?
Well, so we're kind of a chatbot on steroids. Chatbots have been interesting over the last 5 years because a lot of companies got started making customer service chatbots. A lot of those companies went out of business in the past 2 years because the technology of chatbots is based on keyword triggers, which is hardly conversational. So they tend to piss people off more than entertain them or serve them with important knowledge. That's an important lesson for us. If we're engaging with people, we have to prove right away that our system is useful and it's not a barrier. We all want a friction-free sales experience, and that's part of the reason Amazon grew so quickly. Is they removed a lot of barriers from you wanting something to you buying something to you receiving something. We don't want to be in the way. We want to provide utility, and we need to stay in touch with that.
Yeah, it is ultimately about making it smoother, easier, frictionless, and yeah, that's what we all seek. I keep thinking about cruise ships because it's that, and the Princess Cruise Lines, because as a brand, as Disney, as vending, as a microcosm of the consumer life experience at retail, socially, and otherwise, all of the opportunities that are in that microcosm for this type of interaction. You know,
I think it's an exciting area, and it's something I hadn't thought about all that much, Barney, until one of the vending machine companies said they wanted to put our talking vending machines on cruise ships. And that the first customer that they wanted us to work with was Citizen Watches. I had no idea you could buy a watch out of a vending machine. And they said, no, this is a big trend, especially with younger users, to buy things. And it's partly because the vending machines at the universities, you can buy supposedly everything. Not when I was there, but now you can. And so people are coming out of college with an expectation that you can buy more than just a candy bar or a soda from a vending machine. You can buy things like shoes and watches and all sorts of higher price things. Well, that means that the vending experience is more valuable, and they can afford things. So the hard numbers on this are that your average vending machine costs about $3,000 if it's selling some simple thing like a candy bar. The fancy vending machines are more like $10,000. But if you're selling a watch that costs a couple $100, a $10,000 vending machine is a small price. If you compare that to paying a person to stand on the corner and sell those watches, it becomes a very efficient thing. So if a retailer can effectively use our characters, we become part of their extended workforce. And frankly, we work for peanuts compared to
absolutely. It makes me think of
assistance.
Makes me think of another industry in which there is a nascent vending opportunity that's growing actually, and that's in the recreational cannabis industry. And yeah, believe it or not, and the opportunity for an engagement in true, you know, replacing the bud tender, as it were, as they call them. So speak to that, if you will.
Well, I'll tell you, our bud tender here doesn't partake, so your inventory is completely safe. He may talk a big game, but your inventory is pretty safe.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I mean, I think about the trade show industry and convention centers, and I think about airports and the multilingual aspect, and people being able to walk through an airport and just be able to get off the plane and say, que está el baño? Pardon me, that's not correct either, but where's the bathroom?
So let me riff on that, Barney. We do speak 40 languages. And our team's busy working on something to automatically understand people when they talk to it in any of those 40 languages. And I think that something like at an airport, especially an international airport, how cool is it to have an assistant that can speak to everybody in whatever language they walked in the door with?
You don't have to wear the
pin
to find out whether or not somebody speaks your particular language, which usually you have to be, you know, you have to call somebody at concierge at the airport. They have to find you somebody.
Yeah, and the way we do it right now is you have to push a button or say, speak Spanish to me. Well, now we can just say something in Spanish, and our system says, "Oh, Spanish. Okay, we're going to
habla español
Spanish now."
Right.
What about sign language?
Going back to something else you said a moment ago about trade shows, Barney. I'd like to do something I don't do very often. I usually don't talk about stuff until we actually deliver them. But in 2 weeks, we're going to be at Augmented World Expo in Silicon Valley, and that's the epicenter for the augmented reality and virtual reality community. It's really the biggest show in the world for that sort of stuff. We have an amazing opportunity. We're building. Xander behind me is a character for that show, and Xander's going to greet you. This is our first public deployment of these big full-size characters. He's going to greet you as you come to the show. It's going to be right next to the registration booth, and you'll be able to ask Xander things about the show, like, how do I get to the SapientX booth? When's David Colleen talking, and what's he talking about? Or tell me who's talking about AI at the show. There's a lot of different kind of show specific information things that we can give to people with these characters. And this is actually our first live deployment, so we're excited about doing this.
Yeah, it makes me think of also in terms of trade shows, this is your live show guide, to really, I can see it on somebody's phone as they're walking into the convention center, as well as in digital signage. I mean, it is an experience, a communication. And I just want to repeat, just to clarify, you are avatar agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's me, not that anybody would want that.
Should have seen my avatar. It's scary.
Right, or Michael Jackson, or a Disney character under contract, but in either direction, and you are information agnostic as well.
Yes, so we see a big future for our big people. Now, I think we're getting to about that time in the call when maybe we can start opening things up for questions. Khalil, are you going to be the MC for user questions?
I will. But before we jump into questions, I do want to remind everyone that SapientX is conducting a crowdfunding campaign on Start Engine. I am adding the Start Engine link into the chat below. So if you did want to learn more about SapientX, I highly recommend go check out the Start Engine link. And this webinar will be posted onto that Start Engine page in a couple of days. So if you wanted to watch the webinar and you weren't able to attend today, don't worry. This is recorded and it will be on the Start Engine page.
May I just tailgate on that for a second, Khalil? Something that, first of all, thank all of you for coming and listening to us talk today. But the core reason that we are here is because we have the door open right now for people to join our team as investors, and you can do it for as little as $100 up on Start Engine, or as much as $1 million. We hope you're all rich and can do it at that level. I'd like to say that we're a great investment, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to tell you about Palm Beach and King's Crowd, who are independent rating agencies that have big followings of investors that pay attention to what they say as they evaluate startups that are raising money in crowdfunding locations. We had really wonderful reviews from them, and in particular from King's Crowd. They rated SapientX as a top 1% investment. So of all of the different startups that they evaluate, we were the cream of their crop. So that was really exciting for us, and a nice independent validation of what we're doing, not just because we're doing cool technology, but because they see a good marketplace and growth potential for our company to sell products. And that's important to us, and hopefully important to you as well. So sorry to steal the mic from you, Khalil. Let me turn it back over to you.
Yeah. I actually had a question. Earlier on in the presentation, you said the difference between, SapientX is not an AI, I'm not an avatar company, it's an AI company. Could you go into that a little more? And, I think it's very important to distinguish the two.
So there's four main parts to the technology that we make. The first thing is called speech recognition. That takes a live audio feed of people talking and it converts it to text. So we do that, but that's not one of the hardest things that we do. The second part is the hardest part, called the natural language understanding engine. That's where we really excel as a company. I mentioned many of the people who work in the space use keywords. So if you say apple, it knows to say banana or to wave its hand at you or something like that. And if it detects you saying apple in any context, it'll do that like an idiot. And that's why those systems aren't very accurate. Our natural language understanding thing is based in symbolic reasoning and uses machine learning for certain tasks. I know probably most of you don't know what that means, but it's kind of like your seventh grade teacher taught you to analyze sentences and break them down into nouns and verbs and things like that, which is a long way of saying that we go the extra distance to understand what you're saying so that we can extract the meaning from it and return an appropriate response or action. And I'd like to think we do that better than anybody else out there, even the big boys, because we're focused on a different sort of thing than they are. Remember, those big companies just want to capture sensitive user data so they can sell it or monetize it. We want to understand you because we want to create the world's best product interfaces for our customers. So that's what it's all about.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And I know you mentioned there's 40 different languages. What about sign language? Is that included?
So it's interesting that you mention it because we had held off for a long time in adding a video system. But Conrad on our team is working on our video system to roll out at the AWE show at the end of the month. You may see a little web camera on the big screen up there. That's for Conrad's work. And initially, the way that we're using it is when you walk up, we can detect you approaching and say, "Hey, Khalil, welcome to the show." Now, let's say both of you guys walk up simultaneously, but Barney's the first one to talk. We're tracking his mouth movements so that we can turn to Barney and talk to him. And then if Khalil, you say something, we turn over here and talk to you. So these are sort of our baby steps with video. But yes, the natural next steps with video are to understand emotion or somebody maybe who is signing, because we want to have a good experience for everybody who interacts with us, even people that may not hear so well or see so well. So those are big challenges. The other big one on our list is when I talk to our system, I get about 99% accuracy. But my friends who maybe grew up in Japan or Mexico, when they talk, they may only get 70% accuracy just because we have a little bit of trouble understanding them still with a thicker accent. That's also something that we're working on. Once again, we want everybody to have a great experience when they talk to one of our assistants.
And then speaking on that, Mike asks, can this technology do language translation and teaching people other languages?
Yeah, Mike, the answer to that is yes. And I want to tell you about a couple of projects that didn't go forward, but really had us excited. The first one is there's a startup in Chicago called Charlala. Shout out to them. They're teaching English-speaking kids how to speak Spanish. And the way they do that is having them practice with talking characters that they can converse with, and through conversation learn how to speak Spanish. Like many education apps, it's not really well funded, and they're doing great work. And if you can find a way to help them, please do. The other place that we're planning to make use of our language work is we have assistants that can show up in Zoom sessions just like another participant. You can literally send them an email and they show up in your meeting. Well, that's cool, but we needed to do more useful things. The first useful things are they take meeting notes, they summarize the meeting, and if you point them to your company data store, they can answer questions such as what were the sales figures for the Phoenix operation in February of 2021. They can do useful things like that. Now, one of our customers wants to extend that and do simultaneous translation. Hell yes,
Wow.
we want to do that. I can't tell you the number of meetings I've had with customers in Japan, for instance, where the young guys in Japan all understand what I'm talking about because their English is good. But the older folks didn't learn English in school and they're struggling to understand me. So if we can simultaneously translate what I'm saying to Japanese and what they're saying back to me in English, how wonderful is that? That's like the Rosetta Stone that we all want. So yes, that's on our roadmap.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
And then Ralph asks, how'd you come up with the company name SapientX?
Well, now this is an important thing for investors to know. It was actually Jonathan, one of our early advisors, came up with it, and he's in public relations. He told me that sapient means wisdom in Latin, so it seemed like a good starting place for us, and it's worked.
Awesome. And then we have this. We have a long question over here. Would you be interested in making an AI being that would be independent and reside within the personal computer of the user? The idea would be to have an AI who joins the computer and works in concert. Essentially a personal assistant in the computer where you would have the AI, work with them to do his daily duties.
So it's funny, we actually had started working on that in an earlier company that I had 22 years ago now. There was a capability in the Windows operating system to take over the desktop. So we did that. We put an implementation of the metaverse on a desktop, and it worked for about 4 months until Microsoft closed that capability and really screwed us. But the idea of having a character that lives on your computer and helps you with things is still good. Unfortunately, also, Microsoft came out way back then with Clippy the assistant.
I'm just going to say the most
Clippy didn't do anything
ever.
useful, and it just made people mad. So anytime you would bring up a computer-based assistant for years and years, people would bring up Clippy, and then that would be the end of the conversation. I still think it's a good idea, but we can do a little better than Clippy these days.
Man, I haven't heard that term Clippy in a really long time.
It's us old guys. We know all the old stuff.
And when will it launch?
Well, so that really depends on our customers. As I mentioned, we've worked with about 30 different companies and prototypes, and appreciate that a company that's using a voice system and developing an assistant needs to make sure it works well. They need to put it through user testing before things go out. So really, this month is our first product out in the wild at the AWE show. So please come see us over there, and you can test Xander for yourself. Once again, the technology is ready to go. It works well, and we are working with customers to bring it out to their customers as quickly as we can. By the way, you see Xander again in the back here. You saw our team has been working remotely on him as I've been talking here. So we're hard at work at this, even if I'm just talking to you right now.
Awesome. Yeah, and everyone who's attended today, if you have a question, ask it in the chat box below. This is your opportunity to get your questions answered. If you are on the fence of becoming an investor at SapientX, and the only thing that's stopping you is you're not too sure, if you have a question that you didn't get answered, this is your opportunity. So ask your questions here in this chat box, and we'd be sure to get them answered for you. We got two more.
I have a question. White labeling and integrating the technology into other people's digital display platforms that already exist on some form of interactive level. But
Yeah,
that doesn't have your
let me talk about that. That's
Yeah.
actually a marketplace that we're going to be working hard on a little later this year. But we worked with Samsung's TV group. They kind of had a problem. Their sales on TVs were falling because younger people aren't buying TVs, and they were trying to put our cool characters on their TVs, trying to make them more relevant to a younger audience. Um, but other companies, like we're going to be meeting with Sony's display group that makes systems for teleconferencing for Fortune 500 companies, for instance. That's a that's an important place to bring these characters. Uh, One of the companies here locally is Plantronics. They were interested. They make video conferencing systems, and they find that people find they're a little hard to set up. So their use for these characters are just to help you set the thing up, and then we're done. So there's a lot of different ways to use the assistants that we make.
That's important to me. Yeah, it's interesting. There are retail display companies, digital display companies, whereby they're associated with specific product on the shelf and they interact with the consumer when the product is moved. And so to me, this is another layer that so much enhances that opportunity there.
Yeah, there's a lot of
ask
there's a lot of possibility for retail analytics. That's not the core of what we do, but our AI is certainly very capable of doing those sorts of tasks.
Great, thank you.
I'm seeing some good, tough questions come in here. Which one shall we go with next, Khalil?
When
Should I
will,
do the easy one on the top first?
yeah, let's go in order. When will investors get to beta test?
Okay, I apologize. We were going to ship out the beta to the investors to help us test the system before bringing it out publicly. We were going to do that this month, but when the opportunity to put Khalil came out for the AWE show, we pushed the beta test back. So I apologize for that. It was for a good reason, and we're going to return to getting the beta site launched for you next month. So I know you're all itching to try our assistants, and just know that we haven't forgotten about you. It's an important thing that you can do, not just to try our technology, but to give us feedback. I'm sure it's not going to be perfect. So if you tell us how bad we are, that's useful so we can be better.
And how well can the AI interface be incorporated in day-to-day activities of corporate organization?
Well, I'd say quite well, because literally we can run on anything. And if the corporation that wants to use it for a business process has it in their big conferencing rooms, well, it can also be at an employee's desk, can be on their mobile phone.
We're just going to ask, can it be on their Slack channel? So it's just like another connection on their Slack channel to be able to ask that question.
So one of our engineers actually did make a Slack bot with the system, and it works great there as well. So that's not a market that we've really spent a lot of time on, but we have the capability of running in all those systems.
Right. System agnostic as well.
Yes.
And then anonymous attendee asks, you might want to do a collaboration with someone like Waverly Labs on translation.
Well, so I'm sure Waverly does a great job. And there are people that are focused on, that's all they do is translation. And they're always going to do a better job than us because they take more time to do it. We do translation rapidly because when you're using a system conversationally, you can't have the assistant say, well, I'll get back to you in 5 minutes with that translation. So we have to do faster stuff that's a little less accurate. We're solving different problems, but we're open to working with other people. we love the software that we build, but we're not blind to a better idea when it comes along. So yes, we're open to that.
And then Mike asks, are you building Ava from Ex Machina?
Hell yes. No, we're not. Ava thought humans were the problem, and she wanted to fool humans so she could escape. No, that's not what we're building, but we are planning to make characters that are every bit as engaging and capable of conversation, and they look and move well. Yes, that's our goal, but we're going to keep them on the good side of being good assistants, not bad assistants.
And how could the AI be installed in buildings? Is there the potential interacting with multiple users at different points?
Well, that's another hell yes. And remember, as a young man, I design buildings. So one of the first places that we want to put them into is elevators and building directory systems to help guide people in buildings. We think that's an important thing. Longer term, perhaps we'll have customers that make communication systems within buildings. So if you're sitting at your desk and you can say, it's a little warm in here, our assistant might say to you, well, here, let me fix that for you. I'll cool it down. We're not there right now. We don't have customers in that area, but we certainly could.
We have some time for 2 more questions. Anonymous attendee asks, does the AI interface and analyze human reactions based on tones, etc.?
Okay, so Mr. or Mrs. Anonymous, the answer is yes. So right now, the sentiment analysis system, that's what they're called, measures your emotional state based on the words you use. Now, there are more accurate approaches that our partners make. That's all they do. They focus on high accuracy sentiment analysis. And typically those are using either a video camera or they're measuring the waveform of your voice and how it's modulated to determine your emotional state. So our system based in words is probably on average maybe 70% accurate, which is a good starting place, and it's still very useful. But if we want higher accuracy, we would work with one of our partners using one of their systems. And now that we're starting to equip our large screens with video, we could certainly implement that. So thank you for asking about that.
And last question. This could be great for auto part sales.
Well, I'd say I agree. Just like the example that I gave of Lowe's, where it helps you, the assistant helps you find things. I'm no stranger to the auto parts store. They tend to be a little smaller than a Lowe's, but sometimes it is hard to find things at the store. So yeah, we would welcome that. And if you own an auto parts store, let's talk.
Well, that wraps it up with the questions. Overall, it's amazing how you're creating something that is making your daily life more convenient and easy to, get things done. Like I love the Home Depot analogy that you mentioned. That was, a great example to showcase the capabilities. But yeah, I wanted to thank everyone for attending today's webinar. This was really great. Barney, thank you for hopping in and being the co-MC with me today. Any final thoughts, questions, to the audience? David, what can the audience do to learn more and get more information about SapientX?
Well, you guys were a little easy on me today. Thank you for that. But if you have tough questions, one of the commitments I make to all of our investors is that if you email me, I will return a response to you within 24 hours. And I work hard to do that because I think it's important. So if you want to reach me, it's just david@sapientx.com. You can also hit the button on the website, which I think goes to info@sapientx.com. We'll make sure that your question's answered. We value not just you as investors and being part of our team that way, but also many of you are able to help us in business development and making connections with others in important markets that we're working in. So we welcome that conversation, and I appreciate you taking a big chunk out of your day today to listen to us talk about our game plan. Thank you so much for that. And Barney and Khalil, thank you so much for being part of all this today.
Of course, of course.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. And like I mentioned, this is recorded, so it will be on the Start Engine page in a couple of days. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. Hope everyone has a great weekend and a great rest of your day.
Take care, everyone.